Hi, everybody, and welcome to my cult situation report. I am Daniela, scholar of cults, extreme groups, and extremely bad leadership, also known as Knitting Cult Lady. I wrote a book called Uncultured. It's about growing up in the Children of God religious cult and going into the cult of the U.S. Army, and you can get signed copies attached here. I've also written a second book called The Culting of America, which we are very excited to see the cover for soon. That will be coming out January 20th, and we'll talk more about updates on that toward the end of the show. And of course, as always, we're going to talk about the Cult of MAGA. I'll let you know about the itinerary for the Knitting Cult family van trip, RV trip, through parts of Canada and the Pacific United States. So, let's get started. This week, we're talking all about Jeffrey Epstein and child trafficking. It has been very interesting to watch MAGA respond to the news that Trump will not be releasing the Epstein list because there's no Epstein list. He also confirmed that Epstein died by suicide and was not murdered as part of a cover up. So, to be very clear, right, Jeffrey Epstein was undoubtedly a bad guy, a child predator, and to be clear, the Knitting Cult team has no reason to doubt the claims of his victims. And of course, as somebody who grew up in the pedophile cult, I very much care about this topic. What is interesting is the conspiracy theories around Epstein's death and the fact that so many Trump supporters believed that Trump's Justice Department was going to release an official list of high profile people that Epstein trafficked girls to. And even just like the existence of this list is so very like conspiracy. Um, Not that there aren't records of stuff, but just the list has become this very mythical thing. And I want to stay here. This is a kind of crack in the brainwashing thing, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. There's all sorts of conspiracy theories going on. So, first of all, a big one propagated by Alex Jones that Epstein was some kind of CIA or Mossad agent and the Department of Justice is covering up his crime. Definitely reeks of anti Semitism, which very, very often conspiracy theories do. It's pretty unclear what people thought would come out of this list, but it's been a huge talking point for conservatives and for MAGA. So, on February 27th, Attorney General Pam Bondi released the first phase of the Epstein files to a bunch of conservative influencers with much to do, talking about how this new administration is going to be committed to transparency. Now, Trump and Bondi are saying there is no list, and Trump was visibly annoyed when asked about it this week. Like, he's already like, what? Get over it. Um, and he's on a video, right? Stating, I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas, right? Clearly just trying to shift the blame, although weird to shift it to another thing that you're at blame for. Um, and speaking of the tragedy in Texas, I just want to say this is the kind of thing that has been predicted and is going to be more predictable. My best friend Danielle, if you've read Uncultured, is leaving FEMA, has left FEMA after a decade. And one of the things she said, and that many people who work there have said, is like there's going to be so many disasters this summer and this hurricane season that the government is not going to help with at all. And people are going to lose their lives. And we've already seen this in Texas, where the death count is over 100, and it is clearly attributable to failures of the administration and of the current government. So freaking sad. Now, the question, right, is does this lead to a crack in the brainwashing? I just want to go back to the children, because like it's always the children that get sacrificed for the cult, always. And it doesn't always lead to a crack in the brainwashing for those same children's parents. My dad has 3 children that are not alive, my stepfather, and he still doesn't see that it has anything to do with them being raised in a cult because he can't accept that. But I do think that the whole list not existing, not being released thing, I do think that that will be a crack in the brainwashing for a lot of people because that has been their transcendent mission. That has been one of the things, right, that was keeping so many people going and committed past all the ridiculousness and all the terrible things he's shown us he's going to do. It's but save the children. We got to go help the children that are being raped. And by the way, y'all, very rarely is any version of save the children not attached to a hate group or an extremist group. Children are the most unprotected class in our society, and nobody is out there fighting for them to have rights, to not pay taxation without representation, for children to have rights. In other advanced nations, children have rights and parents have responsibilities. In the US, we don't. And we are one of the only countries that hasn't ratified the UN's rights of children, including Somalia. Somalia has recently ratified it, right? Okay, but yes, overall, it's going to be a crack in the brainwashing, right? Some people joined the MAGA cult because they genuinely distrusted and feared that a shadowy cabal was secretly running the government. This is also full of a bunch of anti Semitic tropes, by the way. Um, there's also plenty of racism and economic anxiety baked into it in America. Epstein was a perfect villain for MAGA, right? He's a Jewish New Yorker who worked in finance, had business dealings in Israel, had loads of mysterious money, and was a genuine, real deal, actual terrible person, a con artist and a rapist. Right? In 2017, the U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta offered Epstein a non prosecution agreement. Epstein served 13 months in state prison and had to register as a sex offender, a really extremely minimal sentence for a 40-year-old accused of raping teenagers. Acosta then went on to serve as Trump's Secretary of Labor from 2017 to 2019. He resigned in the week after the news broke. The federal prosecutors in New York were unsealing an indictment accusing Epstein of running a sex trafficking ring. And this, like, it still always surprises me that we don't refer to this more as a sex cult, because it's really what it was. And I remind you, every time I talk about Epstein, Weinstein, P. Diddy, R. Kelly, and who's the last one? Cosby, right? I'm like, where are the white men? I don't believe that there are not white men like hugely involved in these things. Like the one who's the president of the United States, right? And they are not the ones taking the fall. At the end of the day, they never are, right? So tons of people are known to have associated with Epstein from both sides of the aisle, just like all of this stuff kind of in Hollywood. But including Bill Clinton and Donald Trump and Prince Andrew, who we know is a really very bad guy as well. But we don't know if they just like moved in the same circles. We don't still really know anything about what happened here. And it's concerning that we don't know more because we should. We definitely should. Okay, it's understandable why people have big feelings about the Epstein case because child trafficking is a terrible crime. As a child who was trafficked, I promise you, 100% do not recommend. Oops, necklace falling off. It is horrible to think that a government would look the other way, right? Like, I am distraught about it. I am upset about it. All the real stuff that happens. All the real stuff that was happening at Epstein Island and that most likely some of our most powerful people were a part of. It is horrifying. I also saw some of my own friends who grew up being trafficked in the Children of God get sucked into QAnon and then later MAGA because of Save the Children rhetoric, specifically around pedophilia, right? So just because a real bad thing is happening doesn't mean that predators are not going and cults are not going to use that to get you. Like, it's easier to get you when there's a real bad guy they can point at. It just is. This case has been used as a absolute political football, right? And it doesn't seem like any of it is about protecting the children. Just none of it. Or adults. And adults can also be trafficked and often are in cults. In January 2025, there was a memo released by the Department of State that says in 2017, IOM estimated that 41% of child trafficking experiences are facilitated by family members or caregivers. The IOM is the International Organization on Migration. If we actually want to protect children, we have to think more clearly about what child trafficking means and looks like. And we have to lobby for legislation that creates more safety nets and fewer and stronger child labor laws. We're going in a backward direction right now. More stringent homeschooling oversight. We have almost nothing, and better support for mandated reporters, right? And one of the things I always say is like, trafficking doesn't always look like trafficking. It often looks like happy, smiling children performing. Uh, Somewhere on here, I have my end time rap video. I think I have a playlist where it's saved. If you're watching this on YouTube, but also you can go to my Instagram and find it pinned. Is a video of me and 5 other children doing the end time rap, rapping apocalypse Bible verses in downtown Rio. Um, Very, very culty. And it was a very interesting experience I had when somebody was like, "Oh my God, I watched that growing up. And I always wondered how they got you all to do that." And I was like, "What do you mean how they got us to do it? They beat us and starved us and raped us and only let us out to perform." And like, of course we're performing like we want to be there, like we have to. But that's not what it looks like. We look like shining, smiling, if a little bit weird, children, right? And so that's part of the big problem. You know, it always breaks me when I read about the FBI complimenting these children in Waco, who they would later go on to murder. You know, these, oh my gosh, these 3 and 4 year olds will just sit for hours in the middle of the night watching David preach. Like, that's not discipline, that's abuse. Those children have been so abused and so terrified. It is not developmentally appropriate for 3 and 4 year olds to sit still for hours in the middle of the night or ever. Um, and that's what these cults do to children, is just absolute control. And we actually have we recorded an episode with 12 tribes this week with a mother from 12 tribes. I'm very excited about it. You all asked about it a lot. That's the cult that owns the yellow delis. And she was saying like a big part of her energy as a mom was just spent on disciplining the children and keeping them, training them to be still and quiet all the time. And, you know, you tend to come out of those situations like that. A thing I painted, which I will show you in a little bit. Okay, moving on. Members of a Canadian military were charged as part of an extremist plot to seize land. Y'all, right wing populism is trending everywhere in the world right now, not just in America. 4 men in Quebec were arrested and charged with ideologically motivated violent extremism. 2 of those men were active members of the Canadian Armed Forces. So we don't have a ton of information about the ideology or what they were extremist, specifically about. A statement by the RCMP said that the 3 accused were planning to create anti-government militia. To achieve this, they took part in military-style training as well as shooting, ambush, survival, and navigation exercises. They also conducted a scouting operation. A variety of firearms, some prohibited, as well as high-capacity magazines and tactical equipment, were allegedly used in these activities. More information on the involvement of the 4th man is mentioned in the statement. This hits very close to home for me, first of all, because I studied, did a lot of counterterrorism, anti-terrorism training in the military. Part of why expert on bad guys is terrorism as well. And terrorist groups and cults are very, very similar in a lot of ways, right? And I talk about a lot of this in The Culting of America. Comes out January 20th. Book party in College Park, Maryland. In regards to like the reason people join cults, the seeker, and like we can look at terrorism studies for that too. And we see a lot of the same things. This also hits close to home for me because my ex-husband, from when I was 21 years old, that I was married to for 2 years, is the famous, infamous Niebuhr, right? Who was an American soldier who was kicked out of the military for violent online extremism and like trying to get people together to do this kind of stuff. which of course is why I'm spending this fall and probably next spring working on Un-American, my second memoir, in which I am still telling you cult stories and military stories like this one, but instead of looking outwards at groups around me, I'm really looking inward and doing the anti hero journey and deconstructing power and privilege and whiteness and otherness and what it means to be un American slash un American. And if you want a 6 hour preview of what that project is like, you can find that here in my shop on YouTube, or in my shop on Patreon. And it is a 6 hour video of me reading and knitting the what exists of the Un-American manuscript, which is a full story, but just not a full book. You'll see if you decide you want to listen to it. If you are in between, like you've finished Uncultured, and January 20th seems like such a long time to wait for Culting of America, then I recommend that you check out Un-American. Also, I'm in a project now where I'm recording each nearly final chapter of Culting of America and putting it on my Patreon for subscribe members to listen to if they are interested. You will be able to basically hear me read the whole book before anyone else. It's also great practice for me because I will have to do the audiobook. All right. Uh, yeah, let's get to that. Culting of America updates. So I am in the legal read right now. They're doing tons of research. They're verifying everything, finding all the citations for everything I said about the military. And so that's what we are doing. Once we get a final text, pre-sales are going to start, and final cover, which the date will be August 5th. Is when pre-sales are going to start, and that's going to be super fun because, as I mentioned, we are going to be driving around the country. The cover is a whole movement because it's called The Culting of America, so of course you have to have an American flag on the cover, but nobody really wants to put an American flag on the cover of their book right now except for certain kinds of people. So the designers at my publisher came up with something really amazing that my whole team has added to, and the whole cover is a movement in itself. Deconstructed American flag, and we're taking it back, but with more color and perspective and inclusivity and rainbows and less blood and hate. And I can't wait for the Culting of America era to begin. So very exciting. I'm going to be doing a event in Washington, D.C. this month on July 24th from 5 to 9 p.m. There will be a knitting cult pop-up happy hour. I haven't pulled my act together yet to know where it is, so I will leave that in the comments of this video when I do. But if you are in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area and would like to come, amazing. I do a once a month College Park, Maryland happy hour. If you want to be on the list for that, you can email admin@uncultureyourself.com. And then once a quarter, we go to DC. So all those people will be personally notified that we're going to be downtown this quarter. But I will get an Eventbrite link and stuff for individuals to be able to sign up for this event specifically. I mentioned that we just recorded with Yellow Deli 12 Tribe Survivor. That's for my podcast, Cults and the Culting of America. You can watch those videos here. You can also listen to them anywhere you get your podcasts. I have a second podcast called Hey White Women that is me and White Woman Whisperer sitting around crocheting and knitting and deconstructing white supremacy like the cult that it is. We always have very good discussions. In Cult Book Club, you may have heard me mention that. That is accessed through a $10 prescription on Patreon. This month, we read and discussed The Community by Jamelia Chisholm about her brief time in living in the communes of the Nubian nation as a child under Dwight York. It's very, very interesting book and discussion. And next month, we are going to be reading Pure by Linda K. Klein, Deconstructing Evangelical Purity Culture, which is such a phenomenal book. I can't even enough with it. I'm going to show you this because I just finished it right now. We'll get to the nitpicking, but This is one of my scarfigans where I take a scarf and make it into a cardigan with crocheted or knitted sleeves. And I have enough yarn that I'm going to be able to make like a matching collar with it. So excited. All right. We also are reading this month and discussing the first 4 chapters of Martha Stout's The Sociopath Next Door, which is a very, very, very important book. And we'll be on that for the quarter. Um, Book clubs are drop in, drop out. It's not college. You don't have to have read it. Just come for the very good discussion. Um, yeah, I'm also doing like a kind of asynchronous book club. You might have seen some of these short videos from me. These are the books I am reading for myself to deconstruct the delusion of white supremacy. White Women Get Ready: How Healing Post-Traumatic Mistress Syndrome Leads to Anti-Racist Change. I can't say enough good stuff about this book. It has changed my life. You can watch me read the snippets, or you can get copies here for yourself. Generation Hope: How Inclusive Economics Can Help Us All Thrive by Aaron J. Catacam. Also, very good book. And this one, some of y'all ask. This book is called My Body is Sacred, and it is a children's book written by someone who should be writing them. I call these kinds of children's the books for first generation parents, those of us that didn't have any models that we can emulate and are trying to figure it out on our own without passing down too much generational trauma. And I just always say, like, how different would your life have been if you had seen that picture, all of us are beautiful, as a prepubescent young woman, or this picture as a woman of any age? Anyway, we can get this book in my shop with the print, without the print, or the art print by itself. And speaking of art prints, oh my goodness, we finally have the Rainbow Girls. Yay. Okay, so this is a series of artwork that I did that I say it was uncultured before I could find the words, right? So she is called Stolen Potential. They are much, much, much brighter in person than they seem on the screen, just so you know. She is called Who Am I? She is called Uncultured, also known as Whoever the F I Want. And she is called Healed. And if you are interested, you can get any one of those in the shop. You can get all 4 in the shop. I might frame them and hang them here, but I might just always keep them in this and just put different ones up as I talk to you all. I'm canceling the writing class that I was going to launch. Unfortunately, I just have too much going on right now, and I didn't think I could dedicate myself to it, but I still do have plans in the future. For now, I'm doing a series on my Patreon, how I turned my story into a book, a brand, and a business, and you can watch me do that piece by piece, or at some point I will have that in my shop for about $25 that people can watch and build their own plan. And I do hope to do both the writing class someday as well as a college level sociology course on cults and coercive control. Our GoFundMe is going great, y'all. We're almost at 5K. Appreciate every single one of you. This is covering recording the audiobook. We got that down. This is covering the book party that we're going to throw in College Park, Maryland. Hopefully some touring of the country to see you all. So if you are interested, that link is here. Every time I talk about this, I talk about how like this uncovers for me some like fundraising trauma because I hate asking people for money. I love selling. I love trading good products that I have created for money and then putting that towards something. Like we put a bunch of these rainbow collars and cuffs toward taking my trans brother to New York City during Pride Week. And that was great. But if you have that kind of trauma, maybe that gets you sometime. We're also preparing, well, 2 things. I am going into a ivory, teal, magenta phase, another kind of red, white, and blue. There's a tip for you about the book cover. And so I'm partnering with a yarn creator, and we're going to have 3 special skeins of yarn. Ivory is going to be called Whitewashing the Sins of the Cult. The magenta is going to be called Don't Drink the Grape Flavorade. And the teal is going to be called It's Okay, Eeyore, Sadness is Not Badness. And I'm going to make all kinds of cuffs and collars with this during the fall. And we'll have those yarns available also if anybody's interested. We are setting up now a Love Bomb color of the quarter club, where we will like send you 3 little skeins of yarn, the fastenings that you need to connect the jewelry, and then instructions. Plus, I will be doing 2 lives a month where I teach how to do that and send you a video on that if you are signed up. So stay tuned. I know some of you will love it. And now for some nitpicking. Okay, we just showed you the scarf again. This is a necklace I'm making for my favorite waitress. I have to glue these stones back in, but just look how pretty it is. I love using gold thread because it looks so much fancier than it is. Okay, I made a bunch of these. I'm starting to like sell so much stuff that I don't always have stuff to show, and then I'm like, what did I do this week? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I sold it all. This is just a beautiful scarf. I made one of my, I call it a slouch again. I just drape it, cut 2 armholes in it. These are fun because like eventually these sleeves are going to go all the way to be half sleeves, but as soon as you put the armholes in and hem it, you can wear it. And as long as you keep them both kind of the same on both sides, all you have to do is tuck in this and then it's wearable. They're good travel projects too. So I love that. Here's another color that is in the works that we are making for the magenta phase. Okay, it's just tangled up in yarn right now. But look, you can wear it with coils forward or you can wear it with fun necklace stuff forward. There's for magenta phase. Of course, we looked at this one. This is one of my final rainbow colors to sell. And this morning, we made a bunch of earrings. We got some purples. We got some reds. Whoops, that one's taking a ride. We got some blues. We got some greens. And we got some oranges. These sometimes show up in my YouTube shop, usually selling the jewelry on TikTok the most and the art stuff the yarn stuff because it's all one of a kind and I have to just have it in one shop at a time. But if you are interested, you can come find me on TikTok, Knitting Cult Lady, and get some jewelry as well. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and we will see you next week for the Cult Situation Report. I am Daniela Mestenek Young, also known as Knitting Cult Lady, friendly neighborhood intelligence officer, just watching the bad guys and trying to help us understand what's up as we all navigate our experience in this particular cult.